Why did Riot Games decide to make Valorant a tactical shooter instead of a battle royale game, which has been dominating the FPS scene for the last few years? It was in fact a very strategic decision by Riot, and I'll tell you why. Hey, Quash Daddy here, providing you some more analysis on all things Valorant. For more vids like this one, drop a like and sub. Also, would you personally have liked to see Riot make a battle royale instead of a tactical shooter? Please let me know in the comments. Judging by the current state of esports, especially in the FPS genre, we have seen developers dominate by making their own play on the battle royale genre, which has been absolutely taking over the charts for the last few years. Many of the top tier developers have seen great success by leeching into the popularity of this type of shooter and have seen it as a generally lucrative opportunity. However, Riot decided not to go down this route and instead created a tactical shooter game that shared many similarities to Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which was known for its uniquely punishing gunplay and emphasis on team play and strategy. I think Riot has gained a lot of experience as a company by this point, as they have learned how to properly foster and grow an esport, and have scaled to the point where they now kind of know what they're doing. They've done this long term with League of Legends, and now they are planning to take over every genre, and they're starting off with FPS. Now, I actually think that Riot did consider the popularity of battle royales in their development of Valorant, and simply ended up deciding that going down the tactical shooter route would be the better option over the long term. I also believe that for them, that this was the right move, because they have, in my opinion, the best understanding of what makes an esport to be able to both grow and sustain a loving community over the long term, and have called on the help of many FPS legends in the development of their game to make sure that Valorant was a success. To help illustrate this a little further, I want to go over what are the key pillars to what makes an esport successful over the long term. These are things that are important to every esport and would cause some problem if they are not addressed. These things are having good fundamentals and infrastructure, skill expression and having a deep learning curve, being able to relate and connect to as many different players as possible and to have unforgettable moments unique to that game, having low barriers to entry, which includes the cost of the game itself and system requirements, and being good as a spectator sport. I'll be going over each of these 5 pillars and why these contribute to Riot's decision to make the game a tactical shooter and why other shooters have failed at this. Riot is playing their Valorant card really intelligently here by observing what these other FPS titles have done wrong and striking at the right time to make sure that they are a mainstay in the esports space. Having good fundamentals and infrastructure. This is the first pillar and is something that is very easily taken for granted and will be noticed when it is not present. This one is fairly obvious, and for any company who really doesn't get this right will really suffer with backlash from their communities. For some context, when you make an esport, your primary demographic is of course going to be gamers, and based on what I've seen on the gamer demographic, gamers tend to like to complain about things, and if your game is missing out on some basic things like proper server infrastructure, having the right in-game and social features, and overall focusing on things that will service your community of players and give them a pleasant gaming experience, then it will show. Riot is a golden example of this, as their design philosophies always prioritize the player experience and making sure that people who play their titles familiarize themselves with what Riot has to offer. They've learned this the hard way when designing League, and now they've taken what they learned and want to do everything correctly for Valorant right from the get-go. They've understood that the FPS community has different needs and complaints and has been aggressively attacking each one of the problems many players face. They've invested greatly into consistent 128-tick servers, and you've seen this with their attempts to reduce Peeker's advantage and trying to improve netcode and implementing server smoothing. There's even Riot Vanguard, which is their best foot forward into countering the ever-present cheaters that exist in these games. Of course, there is always some controversy when a company decides to make these aggressive moves, but Riot is doing it in the best interest of the players, which is the right approach. Most other game developers also keep in mind what the competition is doing and try to deliver a basic good experience, but Riot has really taken this to the next level and is doing things that no one has done before on the fundamental level. Skill expression and having a deep but rewarding learning curve. In order for an esport to be successful, the game must have an experience similar to that of mastering an actual sport. Players need to feel that they are truly learning something brand new and will need to feel the progression of their skill as they invest more time into the game. There also needs to be a clear method of skill expression and individually across players in the game, even at the highest level. There have been issues with certain games that don't have enough skill expression or differences from different players, or are over-reliant on certain factors such as RNG. As a result, games that are played at the highest level may feel like they end up just being luck of the draw or depend on whoever is better on the day. Classic examples of games that have fallen prey to this are Hearthstone's, many Battle Royale games, and even Riot's own Teamfight Tactics, and now potentially Legends of Runeterra. However, in the case of Riot's own games, they need to consider how they want to treat the games and whether giving them the full competitive eSport treatment is the right call. Valorant does not have this issue, as there is essentially no luck involved in the game, and all of the outcomes in the game are reliant on your own skill and ability to work well with your team. It has many different components to it that make it feel both challenging and rewarding to get familiar with, but not too punishing to pick up. League of Legends is a classic example of how it is hard to fully scale up, as the initial learning curve is arguably too steep, but Valorant should not face the same issue because it is an FPS. Being able to connect and reach with all types of players with great moments. Being able to relate to your audience is also another way to draw new potential players in and have them become more attached to a game. Riot Games does an amazing job with this with League of Legends, as they have built an amazingly rich storyline behind the game with a huge and diverse array of different champions, such that there will be a different type of champion for everyone, no matter what kind of person you are. In addition, Riot deploys excellent marketing strategies that cater to different audiences to try and lure in new players. An example of this was that they had a series of ads that were intentionally made in an anime style because they recognized that there was a strong correlation between people who watch anime and people who play League of Legends. With that experience, Riot can then improve and expand on their cast of available agents in Valorant so that they can make sure that everyone will be able to have one that they can relate to. An eSport also needs to have the ability to create completely unique moments that you would only see in that game. Several successful titles have done this, including games like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and Smash Bros. These games' style of gameplay are extremely iconic, and there are amazing moments where you never thought that the interactions could be that way, and it puts you in awe or amazement to see that occur. Examples are the classic Faker's Z outplay, or Hungrybox's insane level of Jigglypuff play, or combo locks discovered in Smash. These games need to have techniques and gameplay interactions that are fresh and have not been really seen before, and Valorant strives to do just that. The classic argument is that Valorant is essentially just CSGO and Overwatch slapped together, but I really think it goes beyond that, as Riot has intelligently weaved the abilities into the utility system to actually offer what I and many others find to be an interesting and unique and clean experience, and many have said that it is the most fun that they have had in a shooter in many years. Having low barriers to entry. This point relates to being able to connect and reach with a wider audience, because by using a free-to-play model, you ideally want to reach as many people as you can with your game, which could be more hype for your game, which then translates into more sales and more potential for highly lucrative sponsorship deals, competitions, and organizations. This is done typically by offering your title at a low price or for free, and then trying to secure profits through microtransactions and other methods. Riot is aware of this and is making their games as widely available as possible to the masses by not only making their games free to play, but also incredibly easy to run. League of Legends can run on basically any computer as long as it's not a total potato, and Valorant has been quoted to be able to run on computers up to 10 years old. Their other titles are also able to do this, and now they're additionally expanding to the mobile market. Riot is playing all their cards right here, and it really shows. New players are constantly able to pick up and try out their games without any cost to them, and be experienced to the absolutely insane amount of work and rich detail they put into their titles, which draws them in. Being good as a spectator sport. Having good viewability is an incredibly overlooked component for the longevity of a competitive scene for an esport. In order for your game to be watched, it needs to be watchable. It sounds really obvious at first, but it's hilarious to see how many games fail at this. This has been the Achilles heel to the entire Battle Royale genre as well as Overwatch, as these games are actually just impossible to watch. There is just way too much going on, and as a viewer, it is incredibly difficult to tell what is going on because of how fast the pacing is. Like, take a look at some of these gameplay clips. It is actually impossible to make any minute details out and see anything specific going on. see any one player specifically succeeding in a certain environment either, because there's simply too much going on. You can't do anything about that because that's simply part of how these games are designed. This is the primary reason why Valorant isn't actually a battle royale game, even though that's what's been popular. By taking on the pacing of something similar to more like CSGO and offering more depth and a fresh take on the genre, Valorant strikes a much higher level of viewability with pacing that will allow any player to follow easily. People will be able to see how a team coordinates and works together to take on bomb sites while having enough time to observe insane individual outplays with masterful gunplay tied with the ability usage. Everything in Valorant works extremely well together, and the fundamentals of the game tied with the fun and rewarding gameplay and great infrastructure puts all the pieces together for what I think will be the greatest eSport title in a very long time.